We have all the power we need built right inside of us. It's time to use that power now. Hi, I'm Saratoga Ocean, and I work together with an interdimensional, interuniversal, and extraterrestrial force known as Telstar, along with Archangel Michael. Now, as we look around on this planet, we can see that we have a big problem with those who appear to be in control. It's easy to feel like a victim as we watch them attempt to destroy everything that we once thought we could count on and trust. But we can take this problem as a sign that motivates us to evolve in ways that we may not have known even existed. See, we can continue to evolve at a snail's pace over many more millions of years, either here or somewhere else unpleasant in this universe, all the while putting our souls at risk for whatever it is these controllers are planning for us next. Or we can take the opportunity now to make a huge cosmic leap forward and end this slow-moving trajectory of unconsciousness and denial. If you want to evolve as an individual, it's helpful to first understand the larger environment that you find yourself in and how you've been affected by that. So if we look at our larger environment, it's common to think that we have a controller's problem, but what we really have is a compliance problem. I'm not talking only about compliant behavior. Compliant behavior is just a symptom of something deeper. We need to look beneath the behavior and locate its source. The source can be found in a person's mind and in how and what they think. All behavior follows thought. The thinking comes first and the behavior is second. Now, most people think that the issues on this planet all stem from behavioral problems. And most people, no matter what side they're on, think that all solutions are about changing someone's behavior. Fighting against behavior is often a losing battle. You might be able to force a behavioral change, but it will likely be temporary unless you can get to the bottom of the thought patterns that created it. The controllers have been highly effective at creating a very compliant world population. So in a moment, I'm going to talk about how they have managed to do that, specifically in America and in other similar countries. Now, a lot of people currently believe that America is falling, and it is certainly in a state of decline, as are many other Western countries. It's very common to think that if we can just fix the behavior of the controllers and of all the compliant slaves, then all will be well again. The only problem with this kind of thinking is that it will always lead to conflict. It's all about conflict between who is right and who is wrong and whose behavior needs to change. And conflict will always lead to chaos. It's incredibly stressful and just loaded with fear. And that is not a creative environment. Now, I'm not suggesting that we should aim to forcibly stop conflict, because that would just bring even more conflict. I'm talking about those of us who are of a higher mind and who want to evolve, tapping into some higher metaphysical truths about all of this. And by the way, have you noticed how the controllers have co-opted the word meta from its more common use in the word metaphysical? Meta as in Facebook's new name, and more importantly, the more infamous corporately owned metaverse. And in case you didn't know, Facebook is not the originator or the creator of the metaverse. They are merely players in it, along with a whole bunch of other corporations. My point is that the controllers don't want us thinking metaphysically anymore. They want us to transfer our thoughts from metaphysical, which is a power related to nature, to the metaverse, which is a fake product of AI. It's an artificial reality. But we don't have to buy into that nonsense, and we can continue thinking metaphysically because that is our birthright. And the irony is that the controllers themselves are entirely metaphysical. They just don't want us going to that level because then we might actually rediscover our natural power and then see them for what they are, which is basically cosmic losers, meaning that they have lost all touch with reality. That's what they have lost. So being that the controllers are powerless in the real sense of the word, they instead try to control us in league with their metaphysical dark side companions, along with certain interdimensional ET groups. The controllers plan to convince us that metaphysical realities are just too much trouble and too inaccessible. They will tell us that the metaverse will give us a free ride without having to evolve at all. See, they do not want to deal with us having equal or greater power than they do. Their goal is to keep us in a totally compliant state so we don't question anything about how insane they really are. So back to what I was saying earlier. America currently has a compliance problem that goes way back to the start of the Industrial Revolution. And other countries have this as well. Let's look at how the controllers have been so successful at creating the obedient civilization that we know today. It started with compulsory government schooling. That is at the root cause of everything we are suffering from today that is currently at the forefront. Now, there are other causes as well, such as religion, which is a huge fear-based cause of our detachment from God and from the real universe. And there are other causes like hunger and control of the money system to manipulate people into certain behaviors. But I want to focus on compulsory schooling because I want to address how they use this to control our foundational paradigms of thought and learning that lead directly to what we are capable of. This issue is one of the most relevant things happening today. Now, this is not about whether or not you have kids or you have school-aged kids. It's about the fact that we have all had contact with this evil system of compulsory schooling in one form or another throughout the course of our lives. And we are all suffering from the effects of that misfortune. Now, I'm not saying that I'm against learning and I'm against education. I am definitely not saying that. That would be ridiculous. I'm suggesting that you think about the question, why did the controllers feel a need to create something called compulsory government schooling? Well, it's because it's the system they use to train their slaves. It's a corporate system used to create obedient workers with relatively low self-esteem. Low self-esteem is very important to instill if you want to control people. You have to undermine their natural sense of self-confidence. So let's go a little deeper into that, because if you were in any way connected to this system, then you may have some personal deprogramming that you might want to consider doing for yourself. Compulsory government schooling is about controlled learning. It's about directing the minds of the victims to learn only what the controllers want you to know. Through this system, they can control how smart you are and how stupid you are, depending on what their needs are. If the controllers go through a period where they need people who are smart in math because maybe they need some engineering experts in the mix, then they will open that valve of learning to make that possible. And the day that they don't need that anymore, they will shut that learning down. So compulsory government schooling is a system of absolute control. Now, you may have noticed that in recent decades, and especially in recent years, the trend has been to make people dumber and dumber. Many young people can barely read or even do basic math anymore. They are given free passes and participation trophies, regardless of what they know or how well they perform. Now, why do you think the controllers can afford a higher level of ignorance in the population right now? It's because AI is on the verge of taking over so many previously human functions that used to require a certain degree of education for the people performing those functions. But all of that is rapidly going to become obsolete. The controllers are undergoing a complete transformation in their agenda. See, the way they see it now is that smart people ask way too many questions, and they don't want to deal with that at all. They want people to be basically unconscious and stupid so they don't have the slightest clue about what is really going on. The controllers don't need a lot of smart people anymore. What they need now are believers. They need people who will believe in their lies so they can proceed to reshape and reform the earth without interference from the masses. Now, if you look at the controllers' ideas with a clear mind, you can see that they are absolutely and completely stupid ideas. And the funny thing is that these ideas are created by entities who know that they're stupid and inept. They know that they can't compete with anything real, so they have to snuff it out. They have to snuff out the true high-powered creative intelligence that is natural to the people of this planet. That's the intelligence that we're all born with. See, the controllers only know how to resort to control and theft to get what they want. This is why everything they create is artificial and based on lies. It's because they have no capacity to create anything real from a place of true natural power. So they have to completely suppress our natural intelligence because they sure as heck can't afford for all of us to be able to recognize their stupidity and their ineptness. If we could see how dumb they really are from a cosmic perspective, then we would not put up with them for one more second. So they use compulsory schooling as one of their primary ways to solve this problem. If they can make us dumber than they are, then they eliminate the threat of us seeing them for what they really are, which is utterly and totally incompetent to manage and control an entire planet. In fact, these creatures and their human minions should never be allowed anywhere near a planet that bears any form of intelligent life. But they are here nonetheless. So let's take a closer look at how compulsory schooling makes the controllers look smart and prevents the average person from seeing how dumb these controllers really are. Let's take a fast look at how this works. So basically, we are now at a level where the controllers instill absolute chaos into the minds of children and young people in order to completely dismantle people's ability to critically think for themselves and to destroy any last vestiges of their ability to create and determine their own destiny from within. This is actually a very evil form of human alchemy. The idea is to literally dismantle human beings on every single level and transform them into AI cyborg slaves to be harvested primarily for energy. And it all starts with what they do to the mind. The controllers know that behavior follows thought, so if they want to control behavior, they have to first control what exists in people's minds and how those people think about things, which therefore influences how the same people see things and how they react. See, this is so much easier and more efficient than only targeting behavior, which generally requires the use of force. Now, the controllers are happy to use force if and when they deem it necessary, but they much prefer manipulation and lies because it's so much tidier. It doesn't create such a mess. And it's so much easier if they can enlist our own minds to do the controlling for them. That way, they can just live on the easy street of the elites who only have to figure out what lie to tell us next. So our first step in reclaiming our power, which they have stolen from us to use for their own purposes, is to recognize that this is all a function of how we understand and make use of our own minds. Now, the first step is to firmly shut the door of your mind to these controllers. Now, that doesn't mean to go into unconsciousness and denial. That will not help. Unconsciousness is a place of weakness born of fear. It only makes you more vulnerable to being manipulated without realizing it until it's too late. On the other hand, when you shut the door of your mind to these controllers, it makes you able to relax and see them for what they are, and thus be the observer instead of the victim. And the last thing that they want is for us to function at the level of pure observation. That is a very dangerous place for them because it puts them at risk of losing all control of this planet. Once we become the observer, we become a very different type of being. Our energy completely changes. Our vibration just skyrockets, and how we see things goes to an entirely different level. We become someone who they can no longer manipulate. Imagine the power coming from our minds when we are functioning at a higher level than they are. Imagine the negative impact this would have on their ability to succeed at their diabolical plans. You know, in some ways, it's actually kind of sad when you think about it. When you begin to recognize the sheer level of power that we human beings have within us that has been suppressed, and that if unleashed could put an end to this madness once and for all. That's what things would look like if we could learn to function at higher metaphysical levels instead of feeling so incredibly earthbound. So what we need to do is go focus on the center of where these controllers target their daily attacks. To them, our minds are the bullseye. Our minds are like their prize. Like I said before, they know full well that behavior follows thought. So if they can control our thoughts, they can control our behavior. If they can shape our mental paradigms, then they can funnel our reactions into exactly the paths they want. This is why I talk so much about the things they're actually doing. When we wake up without fear, then we can realize that it's us that has the power, because it's us who have the final jurisdiction over every single thought that enters our minds. So you can watch them spewing all of their garbage thoughts and using fear as the glue to make those thoughts stick. Your outlook on it will completely change when you see it all for what it is, without allowing yourself to become a player or a character in their sick little world. I suggest that you start by acquiring a cosmic paradigm of reality instead of imprisoning yourself in an earth-based paradigm. Now, you don't need more information to be able to do this. You know, there's something that I like to call cosmic common sense. This is the true common sense that arises from within your heart and emerges from your higher intelligence. All you have to do is be willing to listen to those higher faculties that you possess and take them very seriously. And that's what meditation is for. It's to give you the space and the ability to connect with those higher faculties. And don't allow the ego to be dismissive of this higher level of knowing. The only reason the ego wants to dismiss such things as being irrelevant or as being non-existent is because the ego doesn't have a place in that higher reality. But we do have a place there. It's actually our home. If we don't take it seriously, we really don't have a way to adhere to a higher level of thought than the low level that these controllers want to keep us anchored to. Instead, we could just end up continuing to live as their victims. Now, before I go, I want to address the obvious question, which is, what about all of the people on Earth who will likely never see things this way? What about all of the people who are still asleep or who are going back to sleep now that the pandemic is over? Here's what I would say to that. When it comes to the collective evolution of the people on this planet, that is not something that we can control, nor should we. Every soul is on its own unique journey, and people have the free will to make their own choices, even if those choices are going to lead to more suffering. But I believe that as lightworkers and starseeds, we are all here with a purpose, and that is to hold the light and hold the space for others to be able to detect a resonating energy that is above and beyond all the madness. People need to be able to see and feel something different and better than what they might see in the average people who surround them every day. And we can each provide them with an opportunity to see and feel that. Now, maybe they won't recognize anything outwardly, but you never know when your presence might serve as a lighthouse for someone's soul who feels extremely lost. Now, this definitely doesn't mean that we have to be perfect. It really just means that we can try to sincerely do the best that we can under these circumstances. And by doing the best that we can with sincerity and love, we can exist as a positive asset of light in this very dark situation. And if nothing else, realize that the earth itself appreciates and welcomes your love and gratitude. The earth is a living being. Think of what it means to the consciousness of Gaia to have even one of her inhabitants connected to a higher reality. And we can each be that person. See, when we heal, the planet heals. Every single one of us matters. So I hope I have given you a lot of food for thought about how you can transform your own experience on this planet by tuning into the power that you already have and reclaiming full jurisdiction over your mind. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it out with anyone else who you think would enjoy an entirely new level of empowerment. And be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell because I am here every Tuesday with all new videos. And with that, I'm sending you loads of love, light, and high vibrational energy. Have a beautiful day, my friends. Namaste.